probably the most recently linked, the strongest links, I think it's fair to say. I think a lot of people think this will happen automatically, but have got question marks around Marc Guéhi. Or have they, to be honest? I mean, even looking now, just a glance at the chat panel, people will fancy this player, think homegrown, leader, all that, great character references. Others saying well below VVD, well below Canate. And it's maybe a bit different because of his age on where we see Guéhi competing. Now, we looked at him a while ago and he almost drifted off the radar, Bart, but he seems back now. What are we saying now? We've got a full season's data for Marc Guéhi.
I think I'll start with a boring point. He's a 54% aerial, right? And he's in and around that figure for the past 4 seasons. So I think you've got to accept that he's not a 60 plus aerial win rate guy, right? Okay, so let's just get that elephant out of the room to start off with. Other than that, if you look at his complete scouting report, just to give us a bit, because we've done that with everybody else. Yeah. I think we said at the time, he's a good Premier League defender. Okay. Good, yeah. His aerials is a worry, right? And you do have to think about that because as we said at the beginning, if you're taking a lot of aerial guys out, you somewhere you have to have people to win the ball in the air. But having said all that, he does take people on. He's got some good stats in terms of being in possession. In terms of what does he do defensively? So second percentile for tackling dribblers. That's a high one for the other two as well. So that's in around the same place. Blocks at 96 percentile. Again, that's in a better than the other two. Does seem. He's a little bit low on the challenges lost, so you want that to be in the green. He's in the 40th, so he's losing about just over half a challenge a game per 90, whereas the others were a lot nearer 0. Yeah. If you look at goal correction, let's stop doing that for centre halves. Switches 75th percentile, so that is better than certainly the other two. Okay, in terms of taking a switch on. Through balls, this is Hato levels, 98th percentile for through ball as well. So on the ball stuff, starting to looking about, okay, this could be something good for us on the ball. If we look at his passing, so short, I would have to say that's a little bit disappointing to be in the 40th percentile and the 30th percentile for short and medium range passing is a little bit low. But is that because he's playing for Palace? Because I think Wharton had some very similar things, and we all thought he was very good overall. So when you break it down, long game though, is 71st and 63rd. So he's better long range passing than actually short and medium, which is something to think about. Passes into final third, passes into penalty area. He's in the greens. All right. So the progressive passes at 67% are from centre half. So clearly he has some ability on the football. Yeah. It's just that maybe playing in the Palace way has stifled his short and medium game. I don't know. I'd like to be a little bit kind to him. Shooting and standing, don't worry about that too much. But yeah, so if you look at his overall stuff that you normally see when you log on the site, tackle he's in a good place, but it's probably a bit too reactive. But that's Palace. Blocks a good place. Interception not nipping in front, but neither of the ones we've looked at today have done that. All right. So if we do a bit of comparison and we bring in, we said he was coming up. What was it? Ibby we're going to do for?
I think people will debate this, and I get it. I think as a collection of 4 centre halves, VVD, Ibu, Marc Guéhi, and Joe Gomez is experienced and got a lot to offer, and we'll come on to the versatility for Guéhi as well. But you do also fancy that Marc Guéhi in World Cup year isn't coming to sit on the bench or be the backup. He will expect minutes, as a lot of people suggest. So there's never an exact science behind this, but that's why, ladies and gents, we thought we'll run him against Canate, the compare and contrast.
Yeah, and I think his profile does well, though. I mean, you and I have done many of these shows. There's several elements there where the blue is better than the red. Yeah. In terms of attacking play, better. Blocks, better. Progressive passes received and dribblers tackled, better. Take-ons, better. progressive passes made better. The things that he isn't as good at is aerials, but Konate is an absolute monster.
Yeah.
And then the passing game, which you've already identified, is Guéhi a little bit of a weakness. But if we look at the individual stuff that I normally do, he is not as. So if you remember, for Lukeba and Hato, there was some lovely heat map around here for his threat creation.
Yeah.
That just, I'm not going to wrap that up for you. That just isn't there for Guéhi, right? It's very deep, but then that also matches up the fact that he's passing the ball along. Yeah, he's not looking for that short, sharp game to build up the threat. He's looking to ping it into here. So there are some things. I mean, he didn't even create any threat in the second half. So leave that to yourself. But in terms of where he does defensive action, same areas as the other three. There's nothing standing out going, oh, this is an exceptional thing. And if you look at the pass network, he's playing on the left.
Yeah.
I think saying he's connected well to the team would be a little bit fanciful. I think he has a very distinct role. He receives it in certain areas, and he does certain level of passing. But I would. He's not on the ball a lot. He doesn't make any balls into the final, into the red in this particular game in the half space of the playing 14. So I think. Look, I think you're right. He's not going to come here and sit on the bench, right? He has some passing ability. He can defend. All right, he's used to the Premier League. I haven't got his speed stats because the Premier League don't release them. But aerially, he is in between Hato and Lukeba. He's better than Kwanzaa was this season in the air. So, I think I think I've heard it. Was it 40? I've seen £45 million link from it as a signing. So it could be the cheapest of the three here, or not in and around, and you get an England international in your squad, which I could definitely see the logic in that. If I was being honest with you.
Is it? I mean, it never is this simple, and naturally people will look at this, and I get it, and go miles behind Konate in terms of the aerial stats, not as quick. I couldn't debate that. We've not got Guéhi speed, as we said, but those two factors, the impact on the team as well, because with the team naturally getting smaller, as we said, with Bart, Kierkegaard, all these players coming in, you need aerial beasts. And if you're now bringing Guéhi in to possibly replace Konate, that is a huge concern, I think, in the side makeup. I get that. I wouldn't debate that for 1 second, people. Is the other side, though, just as a logical move, Bart? A year left to go on his deal. Palace want a fee. Homegrown. Important to say as well, I know we talk about intangibles at times, but a leader, the captain of Palace, so he's the captain, that comes into the mix as well. Can play left side centre-back, has played at times right side centre-back when you look for England on occasions. Also, at times, has been DM, fullback, so a little bit of versatility could come into the mix at the same time. With all that, and the one thing that also struck me, where if you want to bring up the FB ref bit again, we will go to the XT and different bits, but we talked about with the FB ref, and interestingly, as a few have flagged, very good on the ball, especially for the long game, as if being able to pick a long game as came up. And actually, just as a pure stat, people, in terms of long passes in the Premier League last season, Van Dijk was 11th, Guéhi was 13th as well. Yeah. Van Dijk had higher success, but better team, better player, better options in the nicest way.
For sure.
As well. So with all that balance in the mix, and it should always never just come down to price, but price is obviously the key point for everything. If this was like last summer, 70 million rumoured, we're like, no chance. But if it is somewhere around 40, maybe 45 as the compromise being talked about, you can see why they do this move if we're going to launch the assault we want on the Premier League, the Champions League, and all those other trophies. VVD, Konate, Guéhi, Joe Gomez is certainly not a mild selection of centre-halves, is it?
No, I could certainly see the logic in that. I think you could get away with... that sounds really harsh. But if your B started as Joe Gomez and Marc Guéhi, I mean, I don't think there's many teams in the Premier League that have two backup centre halves that good. We could theoretically. You think about your weaker Champions League games, you could go and play those two, and you'd be all right, wouldn't you? You'd be thinking, yeah, we'll be fine there. And then you give Van Dijk, Canate a rest, or you rotate around for 45 million quid. I think that could be a smart bit of business. His XT, by the way, is higher than Canate at 0.11, 0.1. But I think he's a better passer than Canate, certainly long range. So, yeah, I could. This is not me trying to manifest a deal, by the way, but I could certainly see this one happen. This one makes a lot of sense. It's an England international. It's homegrown, and we're struggling for them. Or we want to sell one homegrown, so we're going to bring one in. You say you get 40 million quid for Elliot, who's at home, and you bring in Guéhi for 45. I know they're different positions, but you keep your quota going. I think it makes a lot of sense. It really does. He's consistently played good minutes. He's consistently performed. As you said, he's led a South London, the side to the first trophy in God knows how many years. I think he's a proven leader. And if you're losing someone like, say, Robertson goes to Atletico Madrid, if that deal happens, bringing in another leader at an international level is not a bad thing. I don't think so. Yeah, for 45 million quid, I think if this deal happened, I think that's smart. Providing Canate stays as well, would you say?
Yeah, I think that is the big caveat across the board. I don't want to compare it as a one in, one out because it doesn't look too favourable then, I think. But we said before as well, so it's important to reiterate, no one's fully sure exactly yet what exactly Arne Slot is wanting in a centre-half. But it's interesting that we did target Dean Huijsen, who was more of a progressive centre-half. That seemed to be the focus, wasn't it? The ability to get the ball forward. Marc Guéhi, more from passing naturally, is more progressive than Canate, so it does give him a different option there as well. We don't know if this is going to happen, ladies and gents, but out of the three, from the news, you never know, it does seem easily the most likely. We'll see what develops. But there you go. Three different players, three very different players. A young Dutch centre-back, well, really a left-back who's very rarely played centre-back on occasion, who's talented, but very, very raw and might not be ready for the centre-back position in the Premier League, despite a skipper's anointing. A French centre-back who can play on the left side, who's got a lot of physical metrics that we like, best in the air out of them all, but a price point may just raise some question marks. And finally, the one that probably seems most likely, because a leader who's homegrown, even if he's not as good in the air as others, but is decent at progressing the ball, may just be the one that they plump for. We will see what happens. Or you can pretty much guarantee, ladies and gents, a centre-half's coming in when Joel Quanta exits. Simple as that. All that leaves me to say as ever is Bart, for the insight, running the three, with one final question, though, in a couple of sentences or more, or less, really. Out of the three, who would you plump for ultimately? You can't say it's not my money, and why?
It'd be Guéhi for the Premier League experience and the price point, to be fair. I think he's in the middle in terms of aerials, but that Premier League experience for me, and I hate that phrase, but actually when you play in centre-half, I think it matters. And the versatility, he's played 6, full-back, centre-half. Yeah, I think for that, I just think I wouldn't say bargain, but I would say in terms of going out in a centre half with that level of experience for 45 million quid, I don't think you go far wrong.
Yeah, I think the phrase today is market opportunity, isn't it? As a lot reference. So we will see if this one develops. But there we go. We think it's episode 32. We probably lost track a long time ago. But that was, ladies and gents, another transfer market metrics for Anfield Index.